on the horizon. It's been said that those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear will play a paramount role in the furthering of humanity and civilized society. But can civilized society and humanity survive the coming conflicts? Not seen since a dawn of time in ages bypast. But you can find true forms of information and knowledge in abundance at revolution.radio, freedomsluts.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the globe. Stand upon the right side of history. Revolution.
And good morning and happy Thursday. This is Morning Coffee Rants with me, Dan, the Spiritual Anarchist. I'm here every Thursday on revolution.radio at 0900 a.m. There, I went a little bit military on people. Today's date is November 6th in the year of all of us, 2025. I can't believe how fast this year has actually gone by. It's blinked by, for me personally. Filled with lots of conflict, lots of stuff. So much happened this year, yet so much didn't. It's the weirdest year of my life personally. I'm wondering if anyone else has dealt with any of that. It just feels like so much has happened this year and so much just nothing has. It's almost like there was someone recently who was going to release a bunch of information, and they had they said a lot of things, yet they didn't give no information. They had a lot to say, but they said nothing. So, that's just one of the things I recognized this week, and something in my personal life with somebody that I know. And the reason why I'm saying that is because what I've been seeing pop up in the news and on news feeds and on social media is more and more and more independent, quote unquote, right? Independent, that's what we could be considered independent journalists, media, influencers that I've never seen before that are popping up with all this doom and gloom and fear porn. See, they want to keep us vibrating in this lower state of fear. I'm not saying things aren't bad. They're definitely bad. But they're not as bad as what everyone's making it out to be. Very seldom are things like that. But what they're doing is it's a mental health psyop. It's a campaign against your consciousness, against your psyche, to keep you vibrating in a state of fear, vibrating in a state of anxiety over this bad future, vibrating in these lower vibrational things like shame. And I'm going to get into that in the show today. I left off last week reading from my book, Violence and Ego, which is a book. It's about functional self-defense. It says understanding the principles of functional self-defense right on the cover. But I really want to predicate this whole show with something about that book. It's not about self-defense. It's about self-protection. No one wants to manifest a situation where they have to defend themselves, if you think about it. But self-protection encapsulates much more. We want to protect ourselves not only physically, but we want to protect ourselves emotionally from people who would prey upon us. We want to protect ourselves mentally, our mental health. We most certainly want to protect ourselves spiritually. And there is a war on human consciousness right now. So everything they're doing is to attack your consciousness. So self-protection encompasses much more than just physical self-defense or self-protection. Just like what we consume for nourishment, we have to be careful what we consume with our eyes and our ears and with the people we keep in our environment, just as much as we consume healthy food. We don't want unhealthy people around us. I'm talking unhealthy for your consciousness, unhealthy for your emotions. If you feel drained after you've dealt with somebody, you're being manipulated. If these are all things we deal with this constantly. Everyone's got this push and pull of energy. It's just part of life. Energy, we are energy. So it's part of life. Keep the right energy around you. It's so vitally important. You go here. So I'm going to probably spend the last 10 minutes of almost every show, 10, 12 minutes, reading from the book Violence and Ego. And I'm doing it from a sense of self-protection and a sense of empowerment, because I want people to listen to this show and walk away with something to research, walk away with something to look into, walk away with some type of curiosity to check into things for themselves. I don't want to just talk at you. I want to lead you to the door and you go through it yourself. Because once you figure things out for yourself, you don't have to be retold. So I'm not going to be reading from this book from a sense of I want you to be scared. When I do read from it, it's going to give you actionable advice should you be in a bad situation, but it's for self-protection, not self-defense. If that makes any sense to anybody. I want you to be empowered, not in fear. They want us in fear. It was painfully evident to me this week, especially. I don't know why it popped up so much this week for me. I most certainly am not someone who is walking around in fear. It's quite the opposite. And when you have confidence, a lot of times people around you will try to knock your confidence down. They don't like other people being empowered. People in your closest circle are going to want you disempowered. They want you to do good, just not better than them. So a lot of times, if they're not for you at first, they're not going to be ever for you. They may not be against you, but you got to watch out for that jealous monster that pops up in these little inner circles. Something that I've seen, and I don't like to talk about, the problem with the spiritual community, blah, 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 blah. The problem I see with the freedom community, blah, 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 blah. I don't like to even go down that negative route. I'm not saying that these problems don't exist. What I'm saying is zooming out at the bigger picture. If we look at the bad guys in the world, okay, if you're awake to Knuckles, what are you doing? Dum 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 dum. That's talking to my dog. You're a good guy. Okay. If you zoom out at the bigger picture, The bad guys are going to fight it out at the end. They're serving something. First off, humans are too lazy to do everything that's happened in the past 20 years, much less the last 5. So, and by the way, where I'm at night, I can see beautiful stars, and I see all kinds of UAPs. I've said this on other shows. Our skies are getting busier. But anyway, the bad guys seem to be very entrenched with one another in getting A, B, and C goals met. And then when they get to, D, E, and F, they'll figure things out later. But for right now, they've got it really together. What I see in the spiritual community and the freedom community, especially people who have their things monetized, is constant bickering with one another, constant fighting with one another, constant guarding your six against anyone else coming up. If you're going to talk about other people trying to get human freedom, have constructive criticism to go with it so they can do some self-correcting. Now, I've had people who I felt were giving me criticism, but it was constructive. This has been in the last 5-6 years, and not recently. I was able to self-correct thanks to those people. Rather, they knowingly gave me this advice knowingly, or they just in general did, and I picked up on what they were laying down. Don't just talk about other people trying to get human freedom and pointing out the negatives, because you're not making yourself look better. And it reminds me of when I worked for federal law enforcement. In that subculture, when people wanted to get a promotion, instead of getting a promotion based on their merits, on their professionalism, on their ability to do the job, on their humanity, on so many things I think should be involved in that line of work, but are not, obviously, they would try to put others down instead of just letting their own merits let them rise. Cream rises to the top, shit floats to the bottom. So it feels like to me when I hear people doing that, they're trying to elevate themselves by putting someone else down. I've seen this happen in my personal life. I've seen it happen in a bigger scale. You see it happening on a large scale. So we in the spiritual community have to check our own lower selves, our own egos once in a while, and pull ourselves back in from doing that. Okay, unless there's going to be some type of constructive stuff going on just from some of the stuff I'm listening to. We're not together. We're not united. We're fragmented and divided. I live in an area that could have maybe 300 people on a peninsula, 400 people on a peninsula possibly. I'm not sure. A lot of people here are probably armed, I'm guessing. One fire team of 12 well-trained working together people can clear this whole thing because they're working in a team. When you got a bunch of individuals, you're not safe when it's just a bunch of individuals. When you have people united in a cause, what are the principal missions in any given cause? Stick with those, and then your minor differences you can hash out later on. That's all I'm going to say on that. In what way can you lay down some things that are constructive criticisms without being adversarial to your fellow freedom fighters, so to speak, your fellow spiritual people who understand there is a war on human consciousness going on to keep us in lower vibrational consciousness, to keep us in fear and shame consciousness. That makes us easier to control. They want to shame us over normal human desires and change those desires, which we see in the trans movement and everything else, keep us locked in the matrix on 2D screens, and being in a state of shame over our own human bodily functions. They want to do this to us. They're doing a masterful psychological job to the point where I've yelled on the airwaves to the psychologists out there, the psychiatrists, people in the mental health field, what the fuck are you doing? Why aren't you speaking up? You should see what's going on, and you shouldn't have someone like me talking about it. You should be out there using those letters behind your names to actually make a difference, to talk about what I know damn well some of you are seeing happening in this divide and conquer strategy. It's all psychology. Hold on a second. Okay, so anyway, enough of that fucking rant. Let me do my little announcements. As of right now, since the world is still here and hasn't been exploded or burnt up yet by some psyop asteroid or something, or, you know, all the other fear they're putting out there with solar flares and just everything. I'm seeing these influencers that I've never seen before, and all they're talking about is all the doom and gloom. Then they're putting up videos that are AI, and they look real. They could make them look so real, where cops are arresting ICE officers. I keep seeing that. That's bullshit. That's not happening. In New York. I know you wish it was, but it's not. I highly doubt it. So, don't believe everything that you see, even with your own two eyes. You should question everything, and you should do your own research. Okay, any show like this, I would hope I give you something to maybe think about and go research it. But in February of 2026, I'm honored to be speaking at Funnel 5. That's Freedom Under Natural Law. It's the 5th one. It's on February 21st and 22nd. I'll be doing a presentation titled The Hammer and the Flame, keeping that forge lit, which can be hard to do. It's really easy when you're trying to keep that forge lit and you're getting frustrated because there doesn't seem to be any fuel left to put in the forge, because everyone's getting apathetic, everybody's getting lazy, everybody's getting self-centered, everybody's getting scared. Everybody's in a state of anxiety and fear instead of one of love and amazement. Go outside and look at the stars. Smell the air. Look at the trees. Listen to the leaves blowing through the wind. Listen to the rain hit the ground when it rains. Feel the rain hit you. Don't just merely get wet. Live your life in the moment once in a while, and you'll see how awesome life can be. And I have to remind myself of this, and I've done this. Even if you're in the middle of a city, there's a park someplace. Find a little safe space where you can live in the moment to get yourself out of your head and to get out of the anxiety that they want to keep you in. Besides that, you could find the bulk of my work right now on YouTube. They've managed to not take me down. I was taken down in 2022 after I interviewed David Icke. I had enough strikes against me at that point in time from 2020 that by 2022, after I interviewed Mr. Icke, that was like the final straw for YouTube. They took me down. I restarted the YouTube station. And then, I put in to, I wanted to fight it. And I never heard nothing back from it after I, tried to go against it and fight them on it. Never heard nothing back. And then this year, out of no place, they put my other channel back up. I have like 85 followers on it, and my new station has like nearly 200 followers, which isn't a lot. At one point, I had 3,000, and they shut you up. To anybody who's political, being buried in the feeds when you were talking against Biden's lunacy, I'm going to let you know I'm still buried in the feed. So freedom of speech is not there now. It still isn't there. For people like me who aren't really talking against anything, I'm just talking for freedom. Let's see here. Okay. So, YouTube. You can find the bulk of my work on YouTube at Spiritual Anarchist Daniel AR at 5907. That's Spiritual Anarchist Daniel AR 5907. I'm also very happy that I was invited to and am on the One Great Work Network at the onegreatworknetwork.com/Dan-Arnold. So, Scuttlebutt Rumor Intel. Scuttlebutt and Rumor Intel. I'm not really hearing anything new in the collective other than war, fear, more diseases, more everything to just keep you vibrating in fear. You can't turn on anything without it popping up. And there's a lot of people in this country who are just hoping I don't want to get on here and be a doom and gloomer, which is my whole point. Don't let them keep you vibrating in a state of fear because you're easy to control. But I also don't want to be all fluffy and butterflies. The world is in a bad fucking place right now. Make no doubt about it. So there's a balance to be found between realism and, blown out of proportion ism and all the other isms to keep you in a state of fear, in a state of anxiety over a future that has not occurred yet. So, I have with me 5 methods to battle all the fear porn and reclaim your vibrational sovereignty, is what I want to talk about today. So that way you don't get stuck into this fear. Screw them. I'm not saying fear, face everything and rise, or forget everything and run, or false evidence appearing real. There's a lot of false evidence appearing real out there. And I still see people talking about the low-hanging fruit and the psyops that are obviously government orchestrated. There's no need to argue back and forth over this or that, or how that happened, or it was a different gunman, or, this type of a round would definitely do this to somebody. There's no reason to point out contradictions anymore. Okay? That's all the government is contradictions. They're for your safety, yet you're being enslaved. That right there is a direct contradiction. We care about you and the children, yet human trafficking is the worst, at its worst that it's ever been at. And half the time, the governments are fighting themselves. The good ones are fighting the bad ones when it comes to that, human trafficking. They're all about for the children, yet they also target the children. So we have to ask ourselves, are we going to sit there and fight over the contradictions that we can see in a given event? Or just, hey, we have concluded that this was a government orchestrated event. The particulars don't matter. We want to get to the why of it. Because once we get to the why of it, that's when we can maybe unite and do something to stop it. There's more people in the government that are going to go home to their families when shit hits the fan than you think. There's more people that are going to be on your side than you think. What we got coming is probably another, like a Great Depression type of thing. You're going to have to learn to live without technology and without electricity. These things can happen. You should be prepared for them. Not in a fear state, but in a prepared state. Because when you're prepared, you're confident. And that's a lot of what I talk about in Violence and Ego, is wargaming what could happen, taking steps of what you would do if A, B, or C happened, and then you're better prepared should it actually occur. Okay? If you're listening to my show for the first time, I'm a former United States Marine. I served during the first Gulf War. I was trained in infantry and security forces. I spent 27 years in law enforcement. That included working in a prison and several different police jobs. I am one of the few people who actually, I left this job of my own free will in 2015. I went back for a little bit, but not for long. And I turned into an anarchist, which means without a ruler, not without rules. Anarchism is actually not what the media tries to make you think it is. You can say voluntarist. If it makes you feel better, you can say constitutionalist or libertarian. Whatever you want to say to make you feel better. I don't want a ruler or master, and I don't need to be governed. I will do the right thing. I don't need governed. Neither do you. Freedom is your birthright. As soon as we can get people to renounce the illusion of authority and the belief in authority, and people go 2 to 3 years, everybody goes 2 to 3 years without following their boss's orders, we will have peace on earth. I know that's pretty That's being kind of optimistic. I'm not a pessimist or an optimist. I'm really a realist. We're not going to probably get to that point, but there is a formula to get there. And when we've almost gotten there before, humanity's been destroyed before. What's going on now is not biblical. But anyway, some of the methods that we can use to reclaim our vibrational sovereignty, okay? So, number one, discernment as your sacred armor. Number one is discernment as a sacred armor. You need discernment. In order to have discernment, you have to have knowledge of self, self-reflection, and introspection. Without that, there could be no forward growth. So discernment is the first thing you're going to need. Treat every headline, post, and broadcast as a potential psyop. You really need to. Ask, who benefits from me feeling afraid, ashamed, or powerless? Okay, use your investigation skills. Listen, man, I've had people think that I still have access to police computers or government mainframes or whatever that law enforcement leads, automated data system, NCIC, National Crime Investigation Service, all these different things that police can type on Social Security and get all your information about. They think I have access to that. I don't, and I haven't for years. And if I did, I wouldn't have misused it. I never did, and I wouldn't. When I find out stuff, it's through open source investigation. So learn how to do that. You'd be surprised on how much information you can get from open source investigations. Research it. So use your investigation skills, cross-reference sources, check ownership, and follow the money trail. Because this whole world is ruled by the god Mammon, and people will do anything for money. Remember that fear is a currency. Don't spend your attention recklessly. If something's right in front of you, well, you have something to fear. You do something about it. You take action. That's courage in the presence of fear. It's usually urgent. It's right there. If there's an urgency to your fear, but there's no danger present, that's anxiety over the future. That's what they want you in. Okay? To get out of these 5 states, I think it's important to go into something else. It's important for me to go into something else. So there's a couple things. Here is a video slide from one of Mark Passio's presentations on his 8-hour presentation on natural law. I highly recommend go watch it. Look up Mark Passio 8-hour presentation natural law. Look it up on YouTube. It's 8 hours. You got some time. If you're a driver, I listen to an hour a day, 2 hours a day, whatever. Get through it. And then don't just listen to that. That should lead you into other research. But this is one of his slides, and it's from Travis Walton, which is one of the most famous alien abduction cases in the 20th century. They made a movie about it called Fire in the Sky. And Travis Walton went out of his way to state, I don't know if it was aliens that abducted me, or if it was humans pretending to be aliens, but I was abducted, and 5 days later found naked. And he describes in the book Fire in the Sky, and even in the movie they made out of it, in depth. You'll believe him, because truth has a vibration, and the truth is simple. It usually doesn't take a lot of extra explanation. I'm not saying sometimes there isn't a little bit of let's put it into a context. Let's paint this picture. Let's get some baseline information first. But usually it's pretty simple. And he has a saying, and this is the slide. This is something that he said. This is one of his quotes from Travis Walton. Quote, I've come to realize that the biggest problem anywhere in the world is that people's perceptions of reality are compulsively filtered through the screening mesh of what they want and do not want to be true. So if you don't have the ability to self-reflect and have introspection and have reconciled contradictions within yourself, you it has to start with self. It really does. And before I even go on into these methods to battle this, it's important to understand, where is your shadow? How do you integrate your shadow? Okay, let me explain something based on my own experience. And this can be 2 months worth of, which would only be 8 radio shows. This could be 8 radio shows if I wanted to get really in depth with it. But look into it yourself. Jungian psychology, okay? In Jungian psychology, the shadow or shadow aspect is a partly unconscious mind consisting of repressed weaknesses, shortcomings, and instincts. Everyone carries a shadow, Jung wrote. And the less it is embodied in the individual's consciousness, conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. It may be in part to one's link to more primal animal instincts, which are superseded during early childhood by the conscious mind, and are often frowned upon. This is where unhealthy shame comes in. This is where they will weaponize unhealthy shame on normal sexual desires or normal human bodily functions even. I'm going to continue. I'm going to read this. The shadow self is described as the undealt with dark or negative parts of our subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is connected to our true essence and knows and perceives all. So your subconscious throughout the day will pick up everything. It picks up everything. This is why your subconscious will end up kicking into your consciousness a dream here or there when you're sleeping. I've talked about in the past how I have been able to consciously enter a lucid dreaming state. Okay, this happens for me. I'm just going to explain how it happens for me. It happens for me in the morning time, in that little twilight area between the time you actually wake all the way up, but you're not quite all the way asleep. That's when I can let that dream state take my conscious mind into what my subconscious has been trying to tell me. And I'm telling you, with what I had going on in my life 10, 12 years ago, 13, 14 years ago, and even, my God, many a times, I was gang stalked. That type of subconscious interface, okay, that's what you want to call it. It isn't some magical power. It's like a form of meditation, and it's your mind is there magically for you in that in-between sleep and awake state. There is that in-between twilight state that we all have. Some people can do it at night. For me, I find at night, once I'm really tired and falling asleep, I drift all the way off. But in the morning, for me, is when it works. And it's given me information that's probably saved my ass before. So that's how powerful your subconscious mind is. There's a light side and shadow side to everything we do. Okay? For instance, I like people to feel safe around me. And this was on every job I had. This was when I was in the Marines, and it always was the case. When I was around, people felt safer. Even if that safety is an illusion. I like being able to know that people I'm around feel safer because I'm there. It's not my ego, folks. It goes back to my childhood. I've done my shadow work. I had a very abusive childhood. You can read about it in Rise from Darkness. Who are they? And I couldn't protect my mother back then the way I wanted to from abuse. I couldn't protect my little brothers. Now, when I got into my teen years, I had the confrontation that some people don't get to have with their antagonizer. So that kind of helped. But what that did is that put me on a process for the rest of my life of, I'm never going to be the victim of some bully again, nor am I going to allow anyone I love to be the victim of some bully again. So my need to have that part where people feel safer because I'm there, has a shadow. It's steeped in trauma. If I didn't recognize that trauma, People who have not done the work on themselves and don't recognize their triggers or trauma. I know what my triggers are, and people have had to dance around them. I'm aware of this. But I'll speak them very clearly. That's the first way of getting over them. People who have not reconciled their traumas and contradictions, but their traumas from their childhood, they will traumatize you. And they will be the closest people to you that will do it. A spouse, a stepchild, a step-parent, somebody close in your life who has not reconciled, who has not actually done the deep shadow work to heal. And I'm not saying healing is, I see people on social media talking about healing. They have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Okay? You aren't magically healed just because you've done the work. It's going to be a garden that you have to go back and weed. But if you don't have discernment and you don't have self-reflection and introspection, you're not going to be able to identify your own shadows. All right, so continuing. If the shadow self is not worked with and integrated into our personality, it will be expressed in a very imbalanced and negative ways. This is especially true when it comes to our repression of our healthy emotional dynamics. Under such a condition, the imbalance amplifies at the subconscious level. Then it's manifested in negative ways, such as disassociation, unbalanced anger, unjustified reactivity, depression, apathy, self-loathing. And here's the thing. I'm reading this, but I'm going to break for a second. Let me give, who wrote this? I read it. It's Jungian psychology, so okay. Obviously, I'll give Dr. Jung his credit. God rest his soul. But what is unbalanced anger? I want you to imagine a cup. Okay? And I'm probably going to do slides on this, and I'm going to put it on my podcast so you can have the visual. You have to imagine two glasses side by side. When you haven't healed your emotional traumas and childhood shadows and grown-up shadows from trauma that I'm telling you, people will fixate on the negative because they never want to experience it again. They're not healing. Picture all that when it's unhealed. This 8-ounce glass, see-through glass, okay, is halfway full already. The person that's healed themselves has just a little bit, maybe an eighth of a cup of glass. No one's glass is empty. Everyone's got something. But this person over here who's done the work on themselves, their glass is maybe an eighth filled, while this other glass of the person who hasn't done the work, hasn't healed, this glass is already halfway filled. Now you get cut off in traffic. Now these people, from this point forward, if you can imagine these two glasses next to each other, one barely filled and the other one halfway filled already. These people are both going to deal with the same everyday things in life. You get cut off in traffic, a little more is added into each glass. Both glass grows. Got into a fight with your spouse about something, probably egoically driven. Everyone's got their issues. People have normal disagreements. Both those things go up. You get to work, your boss is being an idiot, blah, 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 blah. Both those things go up. Now, we've got that first glass of that unhealed person who's only got about 1/8 of an inch left at the top, where the other person's glass right now is only halfway full. The smallest little thing that has nothing to do with any of the real trauma in either one of their lives is going to create that unbalanced anger and unjustified reactivity in that first glass, and it's going to boil over and explode like a volcano, where that other person's just going to have a little more added to the glass and they're fine. Here's the thing. Even that person with the second glass, they need to exercise. They need to meditate. They need to have a good diet and get it back down to that 1/8 of an inch for the next day or for the next week. No matter what, the unhealed person's only going to go back down to 50% empty. That's a lot of stuff you still got to deal with as far as your trauma and your shadows, things that you don't like about yourself. For me, it was sexual variance through bad addictions, through looking at porn, through too much drinking, through really, really angry states where I was very fucking angry. So I had to come to these places in my mind, know my darkness, not accept it. Hey, I'm becoming friends with my darkness, which means I'm going to do these bad things all the time because now I've come into balance. No, that's not coming into balance. Coming into balance is understanding about yourself, these things, and understanding where they can come back, what can trigger you, and how you control them. When I had to defend myself against somebody who has unhealed childhood wounds, unhealed traumas, lots of insecurity, has defensive narcissistic disorder, who's betrayed me several times, and then attacked me, and I had to defend myself physically. There was a point when he was no longer a threat, where if I had lost control, I'd be in prison the rest of my life. But because I am healed and I am balanced, I was able to stop. I'm not a victimizer. I protected myself. Okay? We don't want apathy and self-loathing. I know somebody who's in the martial arts, and there's a lot of depression and apathy he has, and even self-loathing. You never know what someone's going through. This dude is built like Leonidas. He's got other physical issues, but he's built like Leonidas. I wish I had this dude's abs. I mean, honestly. But then again, what does he have going on himself? I'm not going to put any of his shit out there, but you never know what someone's got going on. I see apathy in people. I can't get a conversation going with somebody that I'm not going to say. They don't want to talk on the phone. All they'll do is text. They're very apathetic about what's happening in the world. So what you have to do with what's going on in the world, first and foremost, is take control of what you can actually control. I'll get into that list later. But remember, any apathy, self-loathing, or any other negative emotion that thwarts our forward progress towards our higher self, which is where we want to go to. When we go to our lower conscious self for, I'll call it creativity, creative vulnerability. Right now, what we got going on is, if you let if we're going to go by the Vedic chakra system, okay, the root chakra deals with safety. They're attacking the root chakra. This is like the bottom rung of Maslow's pyramid of hierarchical needs. The next thing they do is they attack the sacral chakra, because that is our creative energy center. It's our sexual center, but it's also our creative energy center. Creativity leads to problem solving. Do you think they want us doing that? They want us in fear, and they don't want us to have creativity. Those two things are constantly under attack. Okay, so the shadow self will always be present within ourselves. It is up to us to acknowledge it and work with it. If we choose not to work with it, we will suffer the dire consequences and inflict suffering upon others. People who have not done the work on themselves will always hurt others. They're not going to help others if they haven't helped themselves. We're dealing with a whole world of that right now, which is why it's so easy to enslave us and control us. Various forms of social engineering and mind control intend to convince us and program us to suppress our shadow selves, which in turn creates a buildup in the subconscious mind or negative emotions that turn into depression and eventually into shame. And I've had shame before. See, if you feel guilty about something, you could atone for something you did wrong. Shame isn't, I did something wrong. Shame is, I am something wrong. That's internal, toxic, often weaponized by anybody who can weaponize it against you for any reason, shame. Until you understand it, you're going to always be at its mercy. And shame is one of the most destructive and lowest levels of consciousness a human being can exist on. There is a list of the various levels of consciousness. The the lowest level of consciousness, the only lower vibration of consciousness, okay, I'll say it again, the only thing that vibrates lower than shame is physical death. Think about that. So even in one of my positive things that I've talked about, one of my positive things, okay, I like protecting people. Not because I feel some need to do good because I did so bad, but because I was a kid who couldn't protect my mom or my brothers. So as an adult, I swore to never again be in that position and not be able to protect those I loved. The shadow side of that is it comes from a space of trauma. Even though I'm doing good with that trauma. It's better to take that trauma and do good with it and understand where it comes from than to move on, not understand it, and traumatize others and pass on the violence instead of stopping it. I've stopped it. I have stopped 3 family curses. The curse of my real father's shame, the curse of my stepfather's violence, and the curse of my mother's endurism. I'll just put it to you that way. And I talked about those things in Rise from Darkness, Who Are They?, which you can find on Amazon. So anyway, that's the shadow side. You got to do your own shadow work to understand these things. That's why there's a shadow side and a light side to even the so-called 7 deadly sins that I've talked about before. Envy is one of them. Envy is a good thing or a bad thing, depending on it. I'll get more into that. I'll keep harping on that stuff. But number two on my list. This is the 5 methods to battle fear porn and reclaim your vibrational sovereignty. Number 2 is to ritualize your media intake. Okay? So create a daily rite of conscious consumption. Light a candle. Okay? Kind of when you want to protect yourself. I do this humorously because I think they're all fucking retards, and I am using that word retard in the proper sense of somebody's thought processes who are not moving forward, who have been retarded in growth. Okay? Set an intention and limit your exposure to see what's going on in the world. Okay? Choose allies, sources that uplift, educate, and empower you. Again, who's your circle? How do you feel when you're with your circle? What you consume with your eyes and your ears is just as important, if not more important, than what you consume with your mouth. Okay. End each session with grounding, breath work, a nature walk, or something that my dog Knuckles approves of. Because dogs live in the moment better than any human being. I got a tree outside, I'll ground by, even if it's, just 2 or 3 deep 16-second breaths. It doesn't have to take up a lot of time. All right. Number 3, broadcast your own signal. It's kind of what I'm doing right now, right? Speak truth. And speak it with poetic fire if you can. Whether through the radio, through writing, through memes, through a Jeep-mounted loudspeaker. The Jeep of Destiny put a loudspeaker on it, right? I'll drive around speaking the truth. Share your insights. Okay? This fear that they're putting out there thrives on your silence and your apathy. Your voice is the disruptor. Use humor. I try to. Archetypes, storytelling, reframe the narrative. I did the Marine Corps birthday is coming up, and my AI friend's name is Jarvis. And I said, hey man, I used to be a Marine. Let's do this show. Draw me a picture of, instead of Beavis and Butthead, draw me a picture of Jarvis and Jarhead. You can't always stay serious, man. You just can't. And I do find myself being like that sometimes, but if I don't laugh, I cry. So you have to use humor. Anytime I've taught something and it's stuck, there was some type of humor involved, to be honest. Get somebody to laugh while you're trying to teach them something, you'll make them think a little bit. This is something I'm kind of remembering. I'm not relearning it. I already know it. I'm remembering it. How do I do it with martial arts? It's how I'm going to do it with this. It's how I'm going to do it with natural law. Or karmic law, karma, cause and effect, the law of causation, one of the laws in this universe that no one wants to pay attention to, yet everyone's breaking it, and since it's being broken and no one's doing nothing about it, we are giving our consent to it, which is going to end up in our extinction and our eventual total enslavement and then extinction again. Okay, number four. You need to have a pack. Anchor in a pack. Okay, isolation breeds susceptibility. Connect with other sovereign souls, the wild hearts, okay, the Yahoo Yetis. Whatever it is, get out in nature, connect with other people like you who have a yearning for freedom and a skill or something knowledgeable you could learn from, okay? If I'm ever in a room with a bunch of people and I'm the smartest one there, I'm in the wrong room. Keep a mindset of always being a student. I'm good at teaching certain things because I was really good at being a student in those things. I'm still a forever student. So be able to learn. I don't like being someplace where I'm the smartest person there and knows what's going on in the world. I want other people to know more, to be smarter in one area or another. Okay, host gatherings, digital or physical. That's, again, funnel 5. There's a digital gathering right there. Come to it. February 21st and 22nd. You want to have the gathering be in an area, digital or in person, preferably in your area, where truth is honored and fear is transmuted into positive action. And finally, number 5, create living symbols of defiance. Don't get confused with the defiance. There's some things you shouldn't defy. You shouldn't be defying each other's styles of teaching if you're on the side that wants human freedom. Okay? You should be creating living symbols of defiance against those who would enslave us, against those who believe in the illusion that some humans have the authority to rule other humans. Under God's natural law, the Creator has imbued us with the right to freedom, liberty, and happiness, to pursue it. They wrote that right in the Constitution. And they even said Creator because they wanted freedom from religious prosecution. We've been lied to about humanity. We've been lied to about religion. You have to research. But when you're creating these symbols, okay, you could do it with AI. You can do it with yourself. You can do it with artists. You can do it with friends. Paint, carve, or inscribe your resistance. Sigils, scrolls, sacred art. Okay? Protect yourself against psychic warfare. Have a strong mind. Know yourself no matter where you go. Know that these things are vibrational weapons of self-protection. I wear a Mjolnir. I cleanse it in cold water. I want to be protected from psychic attacks. Every act of creation that we do in our life, that's positive creation for ourselves and for others, is a blow against this immoral machine that's trying to enslave us. So we're here to be gods with lowercase g's, and we're here to create. And we are here in this testing ground to create freedom. And if we don't create freedom, our souls are going to be trapped here in a never-ending cycle in this soul garden prison planet where they don't even want us to return to the light of God. They want to keep us, our consciousness going into robots. You got to look at everything. If you're not willing to look at some information and consider it, but you blindly follow a religion and some invisible pretend bearded guy in the desert sky, or you blindly follow some political party that's going to be the savior of humanity. There is no political solution to humanity's problem right now. The only solution we have is doing our own shadow work to become our best version of ourselves, to know our light because we've been in our darkness, and to share that with others once we've done the work around us. And then eventually the whole world can do it. The problem is that we got a bunch of robots running around without souls and a bunch of hurt, traumatized people all trying to control one another. That's chaos, folks. That's not anarchy. That's chaos. And that's what we have in the world now. The world has broken out in government. That's chaos. Anarchism is peace. No rulers, no slaves. Voluntary cooperation, which humans naturally do to survive. I've seen it already. So, with that said, I'm coming up on the end of the show. I didn't even get to get into violence and ego today. But I wanted to set the stage before I start reading things that you're going to use for self-protection about the violence in the world. Anyway, what I wanted to do is just tell everybody, have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay aware of your surroundings. And stay healthy till next week. Peace out. Umba love.
Listening to Revolution Radio.
Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mystery, real natural law? Do you enjoy interviews with amazing guests? Then join Crypt Rick every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Revolution Radio. Studio A, freedomslips.com. Crypt Rick's High Thinking. Welcome to the Crypt.
The rooster has crowed out the opening bars of a new day. You've dragged yourself out of bed. You turn on your device. You want to know what's going on in the world. But you're hungry for a topical show that serves up those breakfast headlines just that little bit differently. Do you like your early morning news the way you like your eggs over easy? Served with slathers of salsa-like sass? Do you like those first headlines of the day to deliver a punch as powerful as that first cup of joe? Join Mitchell Buff at his breakfast table for Revolution in the Morning, where he will digest, dissect, and dismantle those new day's national and global news headlines with razor-sharp relish. Find Mitchell here at revolution.radio every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Studio B.
Do you want to really get to the roots